Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. Today we continue in our series of the Hasidic approach to joy by Rabbi Shlomo Majewski of chapter 8, Growing from Pain. So we were discussing last week that the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya differentiates between these two types of feeling bad. So there's one which is depression, and when a person is depressed, he becomes dull. He becomes like a person that loses his joy of life. He doesn't want to get out of bed. Every day he's going deeper into a hole. He cannot see the light. He doesn't want to eat. He doesn't want to go out. There's nothing in life that moves him. And this is a very dangerous. Feeling, and it's called atzvus. And then there's another type of feeling that it's called merirus, but different from depression. It is you feel bitterness, and this is a healthy feeling because this is what makes people change. When people do things or they live a life that they're not happy about, and they know, I don't want to go this route, what I'm doing is not right, this type of life is not what I should be doing, I shouldn't be behaving this way or whatever, then it spurs them into bitterness, and this bitterness gives them the strength to take control of their life and responsibility and change. So we were talking last week also that it's very important that a person doesn't hit himself so hard, that he's not thinking all day about how bad he is, because this will eventually lead him into depression, and it's not something that is effective or life-changing. It's just gonna drown a person down, and it's gonna give him depression. So he gives a few examples. For example, there's things in life that are good for a certain time, and for another time they're not good. So for example, eating matzah is a very great mitzvah, but it's only a mitzvah if you eat it in the Seder nights. If you eat it during the year, you're not really fulfilling the mitzvah of matzah. The mitzvah of matzah has a space and a time that is allocated for it. So if you're doing it during the year, yes, very nice, you're eating matzah, you get to wash and you get to bench. But you're doing the mitzvah of benching and of washing. But the mitzvah of matzah only comes in the 2 nights of the Seder nights of Pesach. The same way on Yom Kippur we fast, and it's a mitzvah to fast. It's the holiest day of the year, and this is the way we celebrate it, by fasting. But in the other days of the year, you're just fasting because you're afflicting yourself and you're fasting, then you're not really fulfilling the purpose. It's not a mitzvah. It's the contrary. You're doing something that is not right. You're doing something that goes against God, because He doesn't want you to act that way. That's not the way a person should act. So how can such thoughts become negative? How can a person that thinks about the way in which he should change and how he can connect to God and be a better person become negative? And so it says here that the Hebrew word for sadness is atzvus, and the Hebrew word for laziness is atzlus. So they are spelled in a very similar way. The only difference is that one has a beit and the other one has a lamed. And what is the connection between depression and laziness? So it says that the connection works both ways. A person that suffers from depression is lazy, and also a person that is lazy will eventually end up becoming depressed. So the converse is true. So we have to be very, very careful with these two feelings. If you're a person that has that is hard for you to get out of bed in the morning, and you stay, I don't know, 2 more hours than you should, or 1 more hour than you should, then you should make it a point into waking up earlier. I have someone that I know that for him it's very hard to get up in the morning, and so for him, since it was so hard to get up in the morning, he decided to crush this bad character trait that he had, because it's laziness. It comes from laziness. And he decided that he's gonna go every morning and pray in the earliest minyan. So he wakes up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning with a lot of effort, and he goes and he prays early. Why? Because he doesn't want his Yetzer Hara to grab over him. He could go at 8. There's a minyan at 8 too. But on the other hand, if he makes the effort and he wakes up early, this doesn't allow the laziness to get inside of him. And he's protecting himself from eventually becoming depressed. So why can a person that wants to change, that knows that he's in the wrong side of life, that he's living in a not right way, why wouldn't he let go? And I learned with Shimona Zukernik in the method, which is a coaching course based on the Hasidic approaches, and she taught us that a person that doesn't change is because they don't want to let go of the feeling they have. Because when a person suffers from depression, and please, if someone suffers from depression, don't get me wrong, I'm not judging anybody here, but maybe it's something you should have into consideration, and this person doesn't want to fight it and doesn't want to get out of it. In reality, he doesn't want to let it go. He doesn't want to let it go because there's a gain from it. They gain something from being like that. They have control of the people around them. People are walking on eggshells around them because they don't want to get them sad or depressed. And it's a type of manipulation. So sometimes people don't want to let go of this feeling or of this control, of this power, and get responsible and change the way they believe and the way they think and the way they live. And what he says here is that that also a person that falls into depression is a person that's always thinking negative thoughts. It's not a person that's ever going to think in a positive way. He's always going to be looking at the bad, at the dark of every situation. Every person he encounters, he's not going to be able to see that person with good eyes. He's always going to look, oh, that person has this, or this person has that, or yes, the restaurant is very pretty, but you know what, the food is not so good, or the service was bad, and all this way of thinking doesn't allow a person to be able to get out of there. So Shimona also says that sometimes in life you have to die in order to live. And we're going now through the book of Exodus, of the Jewish people leaving Egypt and leaving their boundaries and their constrictions and letting go of all these ways of life that they thought were the right ways of life. And as they say, it's easier to take the Jew out of Egypt, but to take Egypt out of the Jew took 40 years in the desert. And it's not only that, it had to change generations. Like the people that went into Israel were not really the original people that left Egypt. They died in the desert. And then their children were the ones that were able to enter the land of Israel, because they had to enter with a free mind. They couldn't come in as a slave with a slave mentality. They had to come in as free people. So what it's saying here is that when a person faces himself and confronts the problems he must deal with, it is not difficult to arrive at a solution. Many people say that they spend a lot of time thinking about the problem, but they can never arrive at a solution. So a person can be thinking, okay, I have to get out of this, I have to lose weight, or I have to get control of my life, I cannot keep on living like this, I have to get a job, I have to really do something about it, or whatever it is. And they think about the problem all day, but they're really not looking for solutions. And why is that so? And Rabbi Majeski says here, because at the outset their thoughts were not directed towards finding a solution. They're always focused on the problem and they're not focused on the solution. So on the contrary, what they wanted to do, although they might not be aware of it, is to continue thinking about how devastating the situation is and how, if such and such would happen, it would even be worse. So there are times when we enjoy focusing on negativity, and it is illogical, but we have to really fight these negative thoughts we have to really work on being positive, on looking at the good at everything, and to always trying to look for solutions for whatever is going around us. Today there's amazing therapies, coaches, life coaches, and ways in which we can learn how to focus our thoughts in the right direction, and these people will allow us to help us to get into the right track and go very deep inside of us to see what is not allowing us to move forward in life. But you have to want it. If a person doesn't want it, then it's very hard to get them there. It's like they say, you can take the horse to the river, but if the horse doesn't bring the head down and drinks from the water, you cannot do it for them. So nobody can help anybody really. First, the person has to want to help himself. So I leave you with these thoughts, and I wish that you have a week of positive thoughts, of good feelings, and live a little higher. Thank you.